On November 20, the Trump administration unveiled a 28-point peace plan for Ukraine, which, to be blunt, all but concedes victory to Russia. Ukraine and its European allies have vigorously pushed back against the plan. As the second Russian invasion of Ukraine enters its fourth winter, the question on many people's minds is, what happens if Trump sides completely with Putin? Can Ukraine win the war without the United States? Hi, I'm John Nery, and you are in the Public Square. The international community is concerned about the fate of the war in Ukraine because it is joined to the fate of other nations battling authoritarianism. I am honored that we are joined in the studio today by the Ukrainian ambassador to the Philippines, Her Excellency Ambassador Yuliia Fediv. Welcome, Ambassador, and thank you for joining us in the Public Square.
Thank you for the invitation. Happy to be here.
Ambassador, before we talk about the latest peace plan and the pushback against it, can we talk about life in Ukraine today? What is it like almost 4 years since the start of the second Russian invasion?
It's not easy for the people to live in the war, but at the same time, many people adjusted to the new normality because it's, I think, human nature. Otherwise, you will not survive facing the constant shellings and bombings and also interruption with energy supplies, water supplies. So it's still not easy, but at the same time, the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian civil society and Ukrainian businesses, they developed their new ecosystems and new approaches how to maintain their businesses, the work and private life during these unhuman conditions which Russia created for us after starting their full-scale invasion in 2022. For example, my colleagues, they have their normal work schedule and they have many apps on the phone which inform us about the ballistic approaching or drone approaching. So we hear the sirens. Then we have the pop-up messages, which kind of missile Russia will use this time against us, in which part of Ukraine, in which city, etc. And then the people can decide, or they maintain the team meeting or the work plan, or they should go to the bomb shelter, or they use two-wall rule. So some of the buildings, they do not have the bomb shelters. Then it's better to go to the corridor or to stay between the two walls, then you have more chances to survive. But it's like a Russian roulette. You never know where the drone or missile will end up. And you always check the news in the morning after the hard night, because Russia always chooses to hit during the night time. So the people, they have also sleep deprivation because you cannot sleep when you have like 6, 9 sirens over the night. But in the morning you check the news and you understand maybe some of your neighbors or colleagues or friends or relatives can be not anymore with you. Even now, I always check the news to get to know if my house is still okay, if my relatives are still okay, because when the full-scale invasion started in 2022, I have been in Ukraine. So I remember this morning of February 24th when I woke up at 4 a.m. From the bombings outside my window. And then my life changed. But actually our lives changed still in 2014 when the war
It didn't come as a surprise.
Like we were living in this already since 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea and entered the eastern regions of Ukraine. So then we already lived in it. And we knew that it would be not stopped only in this part of Ukraine, but Ukraine has done everything possible through the negotiation, thanks to our European allies. In Russia, it was called Minsk negotiation, in order to do everything possible not to end up in the full-scale war. But as we see, Russia didn't stop with eastern parts of Ukraine. In 2022, Russia invaded the whole Ukraine. And so when we talk about the numbers, yes, so the majority of people are living in the war already almost 11 years, yes, and in the full-scale invasion, almost 4 years.
That's right.
That's why when we watched, or movies or read the books about the First or Second World War, me personally, I couldn't imagine how somebody can live, maintain the normal living when the war starts. But when I myself experience war, I understand that it's still my life. I cannot put my life on hold. I need to fight. Yes, I need to do everything possible to make my country survive in this war and win in this war. But at the same time, I need to maintain my life, And I think many of people of Ukraine made the same decision. Yes, everything you do, you put and you make an input into the victory of your country and into the life of your country. Many people changed their profession to the military service. They joined the military service of Ukraine. Some people donate to the army and make Ukrainian economy work. Big, small, and medium enterprises. They pay taxes. They make our economy grow, and it's possible then to pay salaries for the army people, etc. The doctors, the teachers, everybody still maintain the work, the job, because hospitals still need to be working, schools need to be working, our firefighters, and this unity and this mutual understanding that each of us is, as a good friend of mine, Alexandra Matvichuk, is calling a drop in the ocean, yes, but we all together make the ocean. So make our country still a living substance, yes, because it's what Russia wants. Russia wants us to stop our lives and to wave the white flag, but we will not do this because it's our country, it's our future, and we want to live on our territory, to speak our language, to have our culture, and to write the history of our country, yes, because it's what we do as a people.
It's astonishing that Putin thought he could do this in 3 days or so. I think that was his plan. But it's been almost 4 years since the second invasion. Ambassador, can you give us a sense of the overall picture in terms of numbers? I mean, not to reduce, the conflict and the suffering and the consequences to numbers, but can you give us an idea, for instance, of how many people, how many Ukrainians have died, for instance?
As it's a constant dying, even the last night we have extra 6-7 people died during the shellings, but approximately it's like thousands of people died when we take into consideration the people who are serving in the army and the civilians. But this number grows each day, each minute. From the Russian side, the numbers which we know, which are open, there are millions of soldiers who died on the battlefield. So it's crucial that, yes, we are obliged to speak about the numbers, but at the same time, we need to understand that each number holds behind the people life, the person life. And those people who, like, even in my circle, many my colleagues from the media and culture institution, from diplomacy, who joined the military service and who lost their lives. They could be a prominent journalist or a prominent musicians or a prominent diplomats, but they can never do their profession, because they decided to fight for the country. And when Russia is pushing the soldiers on our territories, we have the people who just change their whole lives to fight back and to lose their lives for their countries in the unprovoked war. And it's, I think, the main difference that it was the decision which Russian leader made for Russians, and they agreed, and they are fighting. But Ukrainians, we didn't make this decision. It was unprovoked invasion from the side of Russia, and we just need to stop our professional life and need to fight back. Otherwise, we will lose the country.
I'm sorry. So, how many, in your estimate, how many Ukrainians have died? Tens of thousands?
Yes, 10,000.
And then also a horrifying aspect of this war was that Putin kidnapped Ukrainian children.
Yes.
To raise them as Russians. Would you have an estimate how many children have been were kidnapped?
Yeah, so it's also approximate numbers around millions. Yes, of children were kidnapped, and those who were taken from the occupied territories, and also those who were also kidnapped since 2014 when Russia entered the eastern parts of Ukraine and Crimea, and it's like including the children who were orphans, who were like in the special authorities, but those also who have the living parents, but they were also kidnapped and took hostage. And now we also know from all investigations which are done by our prosecutors and also by our investigative journalists, that many of those children, they are put in the special camps when they are taught how to love Russia and also how to then fight against Ukraine.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the case filed at the International Criminal Court that resulted in an arrest warrant for Putin, right?
Yes,
the kidnapping of the children, indoctrination.
Yes, correct.
Ambassador, you mentioned that you were in Kiev at the time the second invasion happened. Can I ask you, what was your own worst experience of the war?
I think the worst experience is losing the people you know.
Okay.
Because it always starting when you spend so much time with your colleagues, with your friends, and then one day you got the news that they are not anymore with you, and they are young people, who had a bright future again, like for them, because they were like really famous, dedicated Ukrainians who were like experts and professionals in their domains. It's, I think, the most horrifying to lose people. Secondly, I think, when you know the history of Ukraine and when you live already in the war since 2014, we were preparing ourselves for the worst scenario. And at that time, I was working in the media, so we developed several scenarios for the beginning of the full-scale invasion. So when everything started, we just implemented one of these scenarios for our team. And I think many of the organizations also develop some scenarios, because when you are prepared, it's easier to digest everything you see around you. And also one most interesting point which I saw, that all your life, all your belongings can fit in one backpack. Because we had this rule of backpack. You never know if your house will be bombed, and everything you can lose. So you need to put everything, the precious one and the most needed, in the backpack, so you can easily run and be more, like flexible. So when I put everything needed, medical kit, some water, and also some documents which you need, and that's it. I understand that we own so much, many people are so attached also to the material things, because we all like comfort. Yes, we have done everything possible to create this comfort and to live in peace. after the Second World War. So we could not imagine that we can come back to the wars. But as I know now, in the whole world, we have 124 wars going. So it's like so many people are suffering at that very moment when we are sitting and talking with you. So at that moment, I understand that the pressure thing is your life and the life of your beloved ones. And then all material things you can put in the backpack and, and that's it. So that's why I think people need to care more about the unmaterial things, about the values, about the the future of the next generation, etc. Because now I think many people, they are too connected to the material things. And that's why we have many wars too, because many of them, they are also dedicated to the territories and to some economical issues. But I think uneconomical are more precious and more important. And that's what you get when you end up in the war.
So wartime simplifies or clarifies things.
Yes. Unfortunately, when you face the crisis, you understand what really means the world for you.
Ambassador, you mentioned that Ukrainian society has adjusted to the new normal of the war. So you would say that. So you said in the morning you wake up and you check the news. So your news organizations are still up and about, and of course we've met some of your journalists in the last several weeks visiting in the Philippines. The hospitals are still working, are still operating, and so on. I'd like to know, are there businesses or lines of work that have stopped because of the war? Like, for instance, are there still concerts in Ukraine? Are there art exhibits? I mean, what aspects of life were put on hold because of the war?
When the full-scale invasion started, I think few months everything was on hold. Because we needed this time to adjust and to understand also how long will it last. Because, all people want to believe that it will last not long, few days, few weeks, we just need to freeze or to fight back, and that's it. But then when we realize that it's a long way to go, so this war will not end tomorrow, then the society started to adjust and also to go back to the normal life. So businesses, they adjusted, they were pretty creative. And not only about, the hard stuff, but also the soft stuff. What you meant about the culture and creative industries, they also went back to work because it's also what keeps the mental health of Ukrainian society, because you still need time to relax, to breathe out in order to maintain this harsh living in the unnormal situation in which you ended up. That's why, yes, we have concerts. Yes, we have theater performances. We have art exhibition. I think also many creative people, they start to use art as a psychological help or for recovery of people who are living in trauma. Yes, that's why sometimes you need it. And I think also our businesses have many startups idea and creative idea. For example, when we talk about the digitalization of public services, many IT specialists, they join the public service with the new ideas how to digitalize all paperwork. Because also during the war, you can lose everything at once. That's why it's important to have everything digital. And it's not only about, the certificates, birth certificates or marriage certificates or your diplomas, but also about your cultural heritage and in general your heritage, That's why we digitalize our archives, our libraries, our museums, etc., because also the war of Russia against Ukraine is
meant to erase all of that.
Yes, is meant to erase us. That's why we need to archive, to maintain and to keep our heritage in order to bring it to our next generations. And it's also the evidence that we existed longer than Russia wants to sell to the world. You know, that we were created during the Soviet Union, that we are a fake state, and all other narratives Russian propaganda tries to spread, that Ukraine has a long, rich history, and that Ukrainians have the long history of their own culture, of their own language, and it's all evidence, hopefully, for the future tribunal or other legal instruments which could help us to bring Russia accountable for all crimes they have committed against Ukraine. And it's not only about this specific war, but it's also about the whole centuries of Russians trying to erase Ukrainians. So it's not our, first war with Russia when you know the history of Ukraine. That's why it's so crucial for us, because we know it from our previous generations. You know, I know it from my grandparents, parents, all the histories, and it's the histories of our families. It's not only the history of the country. So when you take together all these personal histories, then many people know what they are fighting for. And they know the alternative in which we can end up by losing our independence.
One last question about wartime experience in Ukraine before we talk about the peace plan. I remember I was in a media roundtable with your friend Alexandra Matviichuk, and she had this anecdote about surviving the first winter, so in 2022. For the benefit of someone like me who lives in a semi-tropical country, what is war like, especially during winter? What do you fear? Maybe I can tweak that. What do you fear will happen in the fourth winter of this war?
During the winter time in Ukraine, we have shorter days and longer nights. Also, it's mostly cloudy, so you do not see even sometimes moon in the night times. Also, like 10 years ago, we had heavy snow during the winter time. Now, because of the global warming, you don't have much snow, because when you have snow and it's dark, snow gives you extra light. Then it's easier, to go from work to home.
Yeah.
Yes, you see something. But also when you have electricity, you have the lights in the windows, so you can also see. But when you have no electricity, so no lights in the windows, you have a cloudy, long night. So, like, you can see zero, even no moon in the sky and no stars in the sky. Secondly, less snow. Then you end up to live in the dark, and especially when you have children, when you have elderly in your house, then it's like impossible to have normal life and normal circumstances, because it's also without electricity, you don't have warm water to have a shower, or just with no electricity you don't have your elevators working. So for the people with disabilities, for elderly, for children, when you live on the 20th floor or 21st floor, you need to take stairs, and some people they physically cannot take stairs. So it's like ecosystemical problems which are created by Russia when they're shelling the power stations, they're shelling also hospitals, they're shelling kindergartens, they're sharing schools, and when it's a winter time, it's cold and children cannot go to the schools. They can also not stay at home, because it's like you never know where the bomb will end up. So it's like a creation of this psychological push on Ukrainian society, that when you have no water, no electricity, nothing, you just need to go out and to ask your leaders to give up. Yes, but it's our fourth winter, so many Ukrainians are used to it. So we buy generators. They help. I think each family, each businesses have already generators. Then you can, power bank, etc. You can use it. Also, we use candles, etc. So people try to be creative. People try to maintain sanity and a good vibes, because it's all in your head too. You know, it's what one of the my favorite writer, Viktor Frankl, yes, wrote that during the wars, during the wartime, those people who live one day as a last day, but in full, will survive, because those who believe that it will end tomorrow, they will not, and those who are pessimistic and think that everything is done, I need to give up, also don't survive. So only those who just keep on going and just live your life as a, in full. And many Ukrainians stick to this philosophy. We wake up, we do our job, and it's okay when we have this one day in a full. Yes, and then one day more, one day more, one day more. Now it's already 4 years, and in general 11 years. Hopefully that day will come when we will all celebrate the victory and finally breathe out and have our peace. But now we need to fight back, and we need to survive because we know what we are fighting for. As I said, from our personal stories, and we know the alternatives because we see the occupied cities, and we know how people under occupation are living.
Yeah. Amazing that you take so much inspiration from this, very old book, Man's Search for Meaning. Ambassador, I was struck by President Zelensky's first response to the 28-point peace plan when it was unveiled several days ago. And he said that, unfortunately, Ukraine is facing a very difficult choice between losing dignity and losing a key partner. What did he mean exactly by that?
Ukraine really pressures each ally we have. We really, not only our leadership, but the people of Ukraine, we are thankful to our friends and allies all over the world who stand with us. And we understand that being alone in this battle, we will not survive. Yes, we have brave Ukrainian people. We rely on us, on our bravery, but at the same time, we understand that only together, having on our side United States, Canada, all European Union states, our friends in Asia, Latin America, Africa, all over the world, only then, when we will be together standing in this battle against Russia, we will survive. Okay. That's why our president is thankful also to the leadership of United States and other countries for making everything possible for peace to come to our lands. And we really appreciate, and it's good to have this plan on the table because it's a good starting point. But still, we need to make this plan working also for Ukrainian people who are losing their beloved one, who are losing their lives. We have lost too much. That's why it's crucial to negotiate. For this, we need diplomacy. Yes, we need to sit, to negotiate, but it's good to have something. And we are really grateful that we have this 28th point on which we can sit. We can talk to our American friends, we can talk to our European friends, and make this plan working for both sides, for Ukraine, then also for Russia, and also for all our allies. Because for us it's crucial to have security guarantees and to make everything possible. This war will end for sure and will not repeat itself in few years. Because as I told you, in 2014, we had the first invasion. We had done everything possible to stop it, but we ended up in the full-scale invasion few years after. So we need the guarantees that if we will now sign the peace plan, it will be end point, and then we can live in peace together with our neighbor. And it will not come back in few years with more power and more pushovers.
I don't want to put you in the hot seat, but can you talk of elements of the peace plan that are not acceptable to the Ukrainian people?
I think, now it's also the question of negotiator to find the common ground. But for us, it's really important to maintain the people who are living on the occupied territories. Because it's...
so you don't want to concede that?
Yes, because the part of the plan is also about the territories, But it's not only territories, it's people who are living on those territories. So we need to do everything possible to secure that those people will be, their lives will be secured. And that is also the point on which we want to negotiate. Also, it's important for us, the children you talked about, who are taking hostage, the people who are now in the hostage in Russian jails on occupied territories or on Russian territories. So people who we really care about. Secondly, also we need to have our army. Yes, we need to be sure that we can, be self-reliant. We can fight back because in 1994 we already signed the Budapest Memorandum.
Yeah,
when
you
we gave up
your
our weapons,
nuclear arsenal,
and our weapons, not only nuclear weapon, and at the end, it didn't guarantee us territorial integrity and independence and peace. That's why it's crucial for us to have all means that nobody will ever think to invade Ukraine. So it's also crucial for us.
But one of the things I can understand is that the peace plan caps the size, puts a ceiling on the size of the Ukrainian military at 600,000 troops. That seems to me like a provision for a defeated nation. Again, not to put you in the hot seat, but that's not something that you can accept, right?
Yes, that's why we want to, to see the points behind it, and as you are totally right that we are the victim in this war. So we were invaded by Russia. We were put in the hotspot, yes. That's why I think our rights and our values and our wishes needs to be taken into consideration, But it's always also the question, how can we end up in peace? So, and negotiation and diplomacy is always about the compromise. But, now I am reading a book of one of the, I think, Indian author about the rotten compromise.
I'm sorry?
Rotten compromise.
Okay.
So there are some kinds of compromise we can do, which you cannot take. So now I think the question of this negotiation which are going on is which kind of compromise can Ukraine make in order to get peace? But it should not be the rotten compromise, because there are some red lines which we cannot cross because too many victims were fallen during this war. Too many Ukrainians lost their lives. That's why we need to take care about the people of Ukraine, and also we need also to take into consideration their wish of the Ukrainian people. And I'm totally convinced that our president represents the will of our people, and he and the team who is working the peace of the peace deal will do everything possible to represent the will of the people of Ukraine, and our allies in United States, in Canada, in the European Union, in UK, all over the world will also decide on Ukraine with Ukraine, as our president says, and on Europe with Europe. And I hope at the end we will find the solution and will take into consideration also who is the real cause of this war, and it's not Ukraine.
Is membership in NATO a security guarantee for Ukraine?
Yes. But if it's not the case, then we need to have the same security guarantees which Article 5 of NATO can guarantee us, That's why it's also...
If somebody attacks you, others will...
Yes, because if somebody attacks us in the future, we need to be sure that we can, or by ourselves, fight back, or then we have allies who are ready to fight back with us, because it's crucial for us. We know this from the history so that's why we need these guarantees. How they will look like, it's in the hands of our negotiators. But still, they need to be part of the deal. Security guarantees.
Ambassador, I was heartened by the initial response also of some of the European leaders. They said, this is too much. Ukraine is the victim here, as you said. So can we talk about, for you, what are some of the highlights of the European pushback against the 28-point peace plan?
I think it's, first of all, important that all of our European friends and allies, they were vocal. Yes, so they didn't keep silent, and each of them, like, I don't want to name some of them because I think that all the European Union states, they stand with Ukraine. They raised their voice. They wanted to be part of this negotiation. They also wanted to communicate with United States, their state of affairs, and it's crucial for us because we feel that we are not alone in this, because it's not only the Russian-Ukrainian war, it's happening in Europe. And many European states understand that it's their war too. And that's why they want to do everything possible to be part of the peace deal and to be on the side of Ukraine and in interest of Ukrainian people, because it's also in interest of the people of other nations, especially our neighboring countries and all the European Union. Hopefully Ukraine in the nearest future will become the part of the European Union. And actually it's how everything started. We had Euromaidan, so many people went out into the streets because they didn't want to be part of the Russian world. They wanted to be part of the European world because we thought that we shared the same values about the dignity, about the freedom, about the human rights. That's why it's a justice. Yes, that's why it's crucial for us when we entering the European Union. The European Union member states are standing with us in this battle, and we are really thankful that they have done this, being vocal. And I hope also, and I know that many of our American friends have the same point of view, and that's why we are really thankful to the people of United States of America that they stand with us. They helped us not only with ammunition, but also with, humanitarian aid, etc. And that's why Ukraine will be always reciprocal in this regard. And also when we talk not only about Europe, but all countries who stand with Ukraine, because it's not only about, help with weapon or with money, but it's also voting for us, for our resolution at the United Nations, and being our allies in different international forums and organizations. Because I think what we stick all our allies and Ukraine, that I think we want to have rules-based order. We want international law working. Because it's in favor not only of Ukraine, it's in favor of each country. Because if we will now give somebody a right to breach the international law, then the whole system which was created after the Second World War will be under a big question mark. And I think nobody wants to live in the chaos. Nobody wants to have the world in which, the stronger has the voice and the weaker is those who need to step back. Because it's not only about Ukraine and Russia. I think this question is much bigger. And I hope everybody understands this because, as for the NASA, I heard that this planet has only 25 years left. If we will maintain all man-made and natural catastrophes, that's why 25 years, not so much. I hope.
That's a real crisis.
Yes, I hope we'll do everything possible, to keep this planet alive, because without this planet, nothing will matter. What now matters a lot.
It's also possible that the real post-World War II order might be forged in Ukraine. That might be. Ambassador, my last set of questions has to do with fighting the actual war itself. Can Russia be defeated militarily?
It's when the numbers, taking into account the numbers, it's not easy question to answer because, we have, according to the last data I got, 35 million people living in Ukraine and 143 million Russians. So numbers are talking for themselves.
Okay.
Yes. Also, the production lines, when you have more people, you have more territory, you have more economical resources, because it's on territory of Ukraine the war is going on.
Yes.
And not on the territory of Russia. That's why Russia has more possibility to produce more weapons, to invest more in the war machine than Ukraine, because we are losing each day not only people lives but also infrastructure. According to the last report of World Bank and United Nations, as for the 2024, Ukraine had over $500 billion losses in total, taking into consideration all our infrastructure, hospitals, schools, and also production lines.
Okay.
That's why it's not easy, but it's asymmetric war. You know, that's why I still believe that it's not about the numbers you have, but it's about the quality of people minds you possess. Yes. So I hope that still living in the war, we teach ourselves how to be more agile, more flexible, how to use new technologies in favor, how to fight back using also the asymmetric tools. And I hope that you never know when somebody will collapse, you know, because most authoritarian countries, they are closed countries. You don't know exactly what is happening inside the country, taking into consideration economical situation, also the situation with the people, minds, and that's why nobody could imagine that Soviet Union will collapse one day. You know, it was like a constant economical decrease and down of a sudden. Yes, that's why, you know, maybe if it will be ongoing war, one day Russia will also collapse, and then, you know, with other circumstances, we can sign a peace deal. But still, we have, as I said, no other choice as believe in our, future as a country, and do everything possible with asymmetrical means, because we are much smaller, and it's objective. But still, no other choice, as I said.
In the first year of the war, I think the prospect of the use of nuclear weapons was a constant theme. But correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that 4 years later, almost 4 years later, the consensus seems to be that Russia will not use nuclear weapons. Am I reading that right? And if that's, and regarding the use of nuclear weapons, is Ukraine, despite some of your, spectacular forays into Russia, your military attacks into Russia, are you in a way holding back because Russia is nuclear armed? So those two questions.
I think you cannot put this aside still,
Okay.
Because we are in the war with nuclear power. So it's you never know.
Okay.
As I said, many of the think tanks who were studying peace and war, they couldn't predict Russian full-scale invasion against Ukraine. That's why I think nobody can be 100% sure that Russia will not use nuclear button if they want to do it, because it's what asymmetric war is. Yes, you never know. That's why I will not put this. And it's not only about the nuclear button, but it's also about using the nuclear power station as a possible targets. Chernobyl, we lived through this in 1986. And the Zaporizhia nuclear power station is also partially occupied by Russia.
That's right.
That's why they can also use it as a target. And it's also some kind of nuclear terrorism, which is used by Russia during these last 4 years. As I said, hopefully they will not, because it will influence not only Ukraine, but still the threat is in the air.
Would you be fighting the war differently if Russia were not nuclear armed?
As I already told you, it's not Ukraine who provoked this war.
Yeah.
That's why by us, we use all means we have being as creative as possible, being as agile as possible to fight back. And, you know, I like how one of my friend historian said, history has no if.
Okay.
So, you know, that's why, you know, if Russia will not invade us, maybe it would be. So it's not easy. So with if, not easy to comment on this.
And something that your other friend, Alexandra Matvichuk, said also was that history is not certain, but it also means it's not pre-written. So
Yes.
that's a source of hope.
Yes.
To get to the main point, can Ukraine survive without U.S. help?
I think we need our allies on our side. So I hope that in this scenario, we will not also use the word if. Yes.
Okay.
So I hope that our allies will remain our allies because, as I said, Ukraine is really thankful for all help, and I hope that everybody understands who are standing with Ukraine. It's not only the Ukrainian war against Russia, and I hope that our partners will remain our partners, and you know, the truth will prevail, and the real victim will be saved. And the real perpetrator will be kept accountable. So let's hope for this.
What does victory look like for Ukraine?
I think for many Ukrainians, it's not only about the end of hostilities, but it's also, we all understand that we will not go back to the normal. It's impossible. You know, many psychologists, sociologists, demographers, they are telling that Ukraine will need approximately 80 years to recover. Yes, to recover. You know, because it's many generations are already influenced by war. And you know, when peace will sign, it's only start. It's the beginning. You know, we need to reconsider the society. We need to rebuild, reconstruct, etc. That's why I think for us, it's yes, for sure, it's important finally to have peace. To no bombings, no shellings, no lose people. You know, because of the hostilities. But at the same time, it's also how Ukraine will be as Ukraine. You know, if we will maintain our unity, if we will focus on what's make us stronger and not what divides us, and you know, and I hope many of Ukrainians are now working on that to prepare us for the peace times, because you know, during the crisis. I think you know it also, especially here in the Philippines, because you're also living in the constant natural disasters. Yes, you can gather all your strengths and fight back, but then you relax when everything is gone. So that's why it's important for us to maintain working hard. And for example, myself, I understand that, you know, how many years God has given for me. I will work hard for my country. I have no other choice if I will choose to live in my country and to work for my country, because it's you know, data which you are provided, and it's objective. Subjective is how I will work with this, you know, and how many other Ukrainians will work with this. So yes, the other good friend of mine, she created an organization by women leaders, which is called The Day After. So they are working on the day after the war will end, and I hope that we will work. Yes, yeah. And you know, I truly believe in us, because the buzzword for many Ukrainians is dignity, is freedom, and when you will get your dignity back, when you will have your freedom, then it's all in your hands. And I think many of Ukrainians, they not only in the survival mode, but also in the creation and creativity mode. So yeah. Let's hope for the best for our country, but it's not the easy question to be answered, because it has too many small things which will make this puzzle will make the picture work.
I mean, but I already have two quick takeaway for our conversation. One is Viktor Frankl's live day to day, you know, find meaning in every day. Yes. But also at the same time, your friend's the day after initiative is like, We need to be ready.
Yes.
We need to be ready for peacetime.
Yes.
Ambassador, we are thousands of miles away, but what can the Philippines and other countries in Southeast Asia do to be of help to Ukraine?
I think, first of all, we are really thankful for each vote you give for our resolutions at the United Nations, because each vote really matters. So it's a huge help. Secondly, to be more vocal about Ukraine and to stand with Ukraine, because each public statement of your opinion leaders matters and taken into consideration by all other parties. So it's really important to be vocal. And also to be supportive, because people to people matters. And I really feel this, being already almost 9 months here in the Philippines, I feel it. It doesn't matter with whom I meet, with governmental officials, with civil society, with media, with businesses. I feel that you really stand with Ukraine. You are interested in Ukraine. You follow the news. You dig deeper. And it's also crucial in the era of dis and misinformation, because many Filipino colleagues, they are like really studying Ukrainian case, Ukrainian history. Some people I met, they also try to learn Ukrainian. And, it matters a lot. This human approach, and it's what we find here in the Philippines, and I hope in other Southeast Asian countries, and not only. Because sometimes we forget that we are 190 plus countries all over the world, and we are too focused only on the big powers, and we are too dependent on them. Or we focus only on our regional allies, and we are too stick to this, especially for the middle income countries, for the countries in transitions like Ukraine and Philippines. But we forget that actually the numbers in this regard make difference. We need to stick together. And if we middle countries will be more united in fighting for our values, in supporting each other, then I think it would be not easy for the big powers to change the status quo and to make it work how they want. I hope it's already, the rudiment of 20th century. And in 21st century, I hope that the smaller countries will have more voice and will change the paradigm, and we will have the new, maybe international order, which will be led by the smaller countries, which will be more inclusive. And I hope in this regard we can be a good example of this cooperation, even having 10,000 kilometers far away. We share too much in common, actually. When I have done cross-cultural analysis about Ukrainians and Filipinos, we are pretty much alike. I was even surprised. So far away, but we are real warm-hearted people. We care about each other. We are family-oriented. We know what it is to live under occupation, to be deprived of your basic rights, to fight for your identity, to rethink your national identity, to be proud of being Ukrainian or Filipino. And I think what we can do together to work on that, to support each other, and hopefully to make this world live in peace, because I think we understand the meaning of this word much better than many of our Western allies or Eastern partners who are questioning the international order. So finger crossed, unity and peacefulness will succeed in the 21st century.
Ambassador, it cannot be easy to talk about the war in your homeland. Thank you for giving us a closer view of the war and of the prospects for peace and how to prepare for the day after.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for us today. The next step for engaged citizens in Ukraine, as in the Philippines, is to take a more active part in the defense of democracy. Please download the Rappler Communities app and join the chat room of your choice. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Rappler Plus. Thank you. This is John Nery. See you in the public square.